In the first trial, Lin Yan discovered the cursed ghost chat of roommate 01, a room that should not have existed, and yet had somehow reached into her life through a cracked phone screen. In the second trial, she survived the reef beneath the blood moon, where the dead whispered through black water and Yehan appeared from the darkness to save her. But survival was never the same as freedom, and the hand that pulled someone away from death could still belong to someone who had already betrayed them. The Blood Moon trials had not ended with roommate 01. They had only opened the first door. Now a new name has appeared, a girl from room 802, who claims Ye Han is not the savior. Lin Yan believes him to be. Before midnight, Lin Yan must identify the first betrayer. But no one will tell her what betrayal means inside a game that uses ghosts as witnesses and memories as traps. Yehan says Shen Yu is a voice twisted by the room, while Shen Yu says Yehan has been hiding the truth since the night she died. And in the third trial, the most dangerous ghost is not the one hiding in the dark, but the one standing closest to you. Lin Yan woke to the sound of rain tapping against the window, soft at first, then harder, as if something outside was trying to remember the shape of her room. For one peaceful second she believed the nightmare had ended, but the moment she opened her eyes, the memory of the reef returned with a coldness that moved through her bones. She remembered the red moon above the sea, the cracked phone in her hand, and Yehan standing at the bow of the impossible boat with one hand reaching toward her. She wanted to believe he had saved her, but the last message from the ghost chat still burned in her mind like a warning written behind her eyes. Do not trust the one who saved you. Those words followed Lin Yan even as she sat up in bed and looked around her quiet room where everything seemed ordinary enough to be cruel. Her school bag leaned against the chair, her notebooks were still open on the desk, and her cracked phone lay dead on the bedside table with no charger connected to it. For a moment she almost convinced herself that ordinary things could protect her from impossible ones, but then the phone screen lit up with a dim red glow, and the rain outside stopped all at once. The phone vibrated once, then again, then a third time, each sound small but sharp enough to make Lin Yan's heart tighten. She knew she should not touch it because every message from that cursed screen had dragged her deeper into the Blood Moon trials. But ignoring the rules had never saved anyone in room 801. Slowly she reached for the phone, and the glass felt colder than rainwater against her fingers. Across the cracked screen, a new notification appeared. Blood Moon Trials has added you to a new group. The old group name was gone. The ghost chat no longer appeared at the top of the screen, and in its place was a title that made Lin Yan's breath catch in her throat. Final participants. Beneath the group name were only 3 members listed in pale white text against a black background that seemed deeper than a normal phone screen should be. Lin Yan saw her own name first, then Yehan's name beneath it, and finally a third name that looked as though it had been scratched into the glass from the inside. The girl from room 802. For a long time, Lin Yan only stared at that third name. Room 801 had nearly killed her, and yet now the number beside it looked less like an ending, and more like the first door in a hallway with no visible end. Her fingers trembled as she tapped the third profile, but no photo appeared, no number, no description, only a black circle with the number 802 drawn in thin red lines. Then a message slid into the chat, slow and silent, as if someone far away was pushing it through water. The second trial has ended. The third name has awakened. Find her before Ye Han does. Lin Yan read the 3 lines again, and the room seemed to grow smaller around her, the walls pressing closer, as though they were trying to hear her thoughts. She looked at Ye Han's name, grey and motionless in the group list. And for the first time since the reef, she felt afraid not of the ghost chasing her, but of the person who had reached out his hand to save her. Another notification appeared before she could decide what to do. This one was not from the group chat, but from an unknown number, and it contained only a single photograph. Lin Yan opened it with a kind of dread that had already become familiar, and a dark hallway filled the cracked screen. The picture showed old wallpaper, dusty floorboards, and a row of closed doors stretching into shadow. But at the very end stood a girl in a white school uniform, her back turned toward the camera, one pale hand resting on a door marked 802. Lin Yan zoomed in, and the blood in her body seemed to freeze. The girl was holding a phone, and on the small reflected screen of that phone was Lin Yan's own face, pale and frightened, as if the girl had been watching her from the other side of the photo. A new line appeared beneath the image. She has been watching you since room 801 opened. Lin Yan nearly dropped the phone, and her first instinct was to call Yehan, but her thumb stopped above his name before it could press down. Outside the window, thunder rolled across the morning sky. Lin Yan walked to the curtain and pulled it aside, hoping the city below would comfort her with something ordinary, but the street looked drowned beneath sheets of rain and fog. People hurried past with umbrellas, cars hissed through puddles, and the world continued, as if it had no idea that something impossible had just entered her room. Then she saw the figure standing under the dead tree across the road, tall and still in a long, dark coat. Yehan lifted his head. Even through the rain, even through the grey curtain of water between them, Lin Yan knew that he was looking directly at her. He did not wave, did not call, did not move closer. He only raised one finger slowly to his lips, warning her to stay silent. Then he pointed not at himself, not at the street, but toward the hallway behind her apartment door. Lin Yan turned very slowly. Her bedroom door was half open, although she was certain she had closed it before she slept. Beyond it, the apartment hallway was dim, and the ceiling light flickered once, then twice, throwing long shadows across the floor. From somewhere outside her room came the soft sound of bare feet moving across the tiles. Then a girl's voice whispered her name. Lin Yan did not answer. She stood completely still, gripping the phone so tightly that the cracked glass pressed into her palm. The voice came again, closer this time, gentle and thin, like someone speaking from the bottom of a deep well. Lin Yan, it whispered, if you can hear me, do not open the door for him. Her mouth went dry because the voice was not coming from the hallway. It was coming from the black profile circle beside the name. The girl from room 802. The number 802 pulsed once in red, and another message appeared. He has already found you once before you knew what he was. Lin Yan backed away from the bedroom door, her mind splitting between two terrors, Yehan standing outside in the rain, and the girl speaking through the phone in her hand. She wanted to believe one of them had to be lying, but the Blood Moon trials never offered lies without wrapping them around a piece of truth. That was how room 801 had worked. It had shown people what they feared, then made them choose before they understood what they were choosing. A knock sounded from the apartment door. Not loud, not urgent, just 2 calm taps that made Lin Yan's skin prickle. She did not move, but another message appeared on the phone. Do not let him cross the threshold. Lin Yan stared at the words, and then Ye Han's voice came from outside low and clear through the door. Lin Yan, he said, whatever that thing has told you, do not answer it. His voice should have been muffled by the door, but it came through clearly as if the wood between them had become as thin as paper. The phone went black. For 1 second, Lin Yan could see only her own reflection in the cracked screen, eyes wide, lips parted, face drained of colour. Then the screen lit again, and the girl from room 802 sent a final message. Ask him why he knows my voice. Lin Yan's hand shook as she looked toward the apartment door where Ye Han waited with the patience of someone who had done this before. The first thing Lin Yan wanted to ask was who the girl was. The second thing she wanted to ask was why the ghost chat had warned her about Ye Han. But the third question, the one that rose cold and sharp through all the others, was the one the girl had given her. Lin Yan forced herself to take 1 step into the hallway, then another until she stood several feet from the apartment door. Who is she? Lin Yan asked. For a moment there was no answer. The rain outside filled the silence with 1,000 tiny sounds, and the light above her flickered again. Lin Yan imagined Ye Han standing on the other side of the door, head slightly bowed. Dark coat soaked with rain, expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than before. She was part of the trials before you. Lin Yan swallowed. That is not an answer. No, Ye Han said. It is the safest part of the answer. The phone vibrated in Lin Yan's hand. The girl from room 802 sent another message, and this time the letters appeared one by one as though written by a trembling finger. He always speaks that way when he wants someone to live long enough to forgive him. Lin Yan felt the air leave her lungs. She looked at the door again, and suddenly it no longer seemed like a simple barrier between her and Ye Han. It felt like the final thin line between 2 versions of the truth. Ye Han seemed to know she had read something because his voice changed. Do not listen to anything she says about me. He paused, and when he spoke again there was something strained beneath the calm. She has been trapped inside room 802 for 3 years. The trials used trapped voices to confuse the living. The phone vibrated again. 3 years, the message said. He still counts the time from the day I died. Lin Yan felt cold spread across her chest. She remembered the photo, the long hallway, the girl in the white uniform touching the door marked 802. She remembered the way Ye Han had appeared at the reef, exactly when she needed him, and the way he had seemed to know too much, as if he had walked the same nightmare long before her. Did she die because of you? Lin Yan asked. This time the silence was longer. Ye Han did not answer quickly, and that delay told her more than his words might have. Lin Yan felt her heart begin to pound, not fast and wild like before, but heavy, each beat landing like a footstep in an empty hall. When Ye Han finally spoke, his voice was almost a whisper. Yes, he said, but not in the way she thinks. The hallway light went out. Lin Yan gasped and stepped back, but the phone screen glowed brighter, painting her hand and the walls in red. From the speaker came a soft, broken laugh, not cruel, not joyful, but full of grief, so old that it sounded almost empty. Then the girl from room 802 spoke aloud, her voice thin and close against Lin Yan's ear. Ask him what my name was. Lin Yan closed her eyes for a second. She did not want to ask. Some part of her understood that names in the Blood Moon trials were not simple things. They were keys, debts, promises, and sometimes graves. But not asking felt worse. She opened her eyes and looked toward the dark hallway. What was her name? Lin Yan asked. Outside the door, Yehan drew a breath. Lin Yan heard it clearly even through the wood, even through the rain. For the first time since she had met him, he sounded less like someone who knew how to survive, and more like someone who had been surviving the same moment for far too long. When he answered, the name came out quietly. Shen Yu. The phone screen flashed white. For an instant, Lin Yan saw another room, not her apartment, not the hallway outside, but a classroom soaked in moonlight. A girl in a white uniform sat at the back desk, writing something in a notebook while red light spilled through the window. A boy stood at the doorway, younger than Yehan, but with the same pale face and dark eyes, calling her name as shadows gathered behind him. Then the vision changed. The classroom became an old dormitory corridor with wet footprints leading from room 801 to room 802. Shen Yu stood near the second door, clutching a phone with both hands, while the younger Yehan stood in front of her, blocking the way back. There was someone else there too, a boy in a black school uniform, whose face Lin Yan could not see clearly, only the curve of his smile reflected in the window. He was holding a red umbrella even though they were indoors. The vision vanished before Lin Yan could understand it. She staggered backward and hit the wall with her shoulder. Her phone nearly slipped from her fingers, but she caught it before it fell. The group chat had changed again. Beneath the title, Final Participants, a new timer had appeared. 23:59:59, 23:59:58, 23:59:57. Lin Yan stared at the countdown, unable to breathe. A new rule appeared beneath it. Before midnight, the living participant must identify the first betrayer. If the answer is wrong, one name will be erased. If no answer is given, all three names will enter room 802. The words blurred before Lin Yan's eyes. The living participant. That meant her. Yehan and Shen Yu were something else, or the game wanted her to think they were. She looked at the closed apartment door, then at the phone, then at the darkness behind her where her room now seemed farther away than it should have been. What does it mean by the first betrayer, she asked. Yehan answered before the girl could. It means the trial is forcing you to choose between stories. Shen Yu's voice came through the phone, soft and bitter. No, it means it is finally asking someone to tell the truth. Lin Yan pressed her free hand against her forehead. She had survived ghosts' rooms that should not exist, messages from the dead, and a red moon that seemed to open the sea itself. But this felt more dangerous. A ghost could chase her. A curse could threaten her. But a choice made from half-truths could destroy her without ever touching her. Lin Yan Yehan said, "Open the door. I can explain more if I am inside." No, Shen Yu said through the phone. If he crosses the threshold before you know what he did, the room will mark you as his witness. Lin Yan froze. What does that mean? The phone screen flickered and Shen Yu's voice lowered to a whisper. It means his sin becomes your memory. The apartment seemed to breathe around her. Somewhere in the kitchen a faucet began to drip, though Lin Yan knew she had not turned it on. Drip. Drip, drip. Each drop sounded too heavy, like water falling into a room beneath the floor. Yehan knocked once more, but this time the patience in the sound had thinned. The trial is already changing your apartment, he said. If you keep me out, it will build the corridor around you. Lin Yan looked down the hallway. At first she saw only the dark shape of her living room. The small shoe rack near the entrance, the framed photo of her mother on the wall. Then the wallpaper rippled. It did not tear or melt. It simply shifted as if another place were rising beneath the surface. The cream walls darkened into stained yellow paper, and the tiles beneath her feet became old wooden boards coated with dust. Lin Yan's breath caught. The hallway in the photo was forming inside her home. The doors that had never been there began appearing one by one along the wall, narrow and dark, each with a brass number plate. 796, 797, 798. The numbers moved closer to her room with every flicker of the dead ceiling light. "Open the door," Yehan said. "Don't," Shen Yu whispered. Lin Yan did not move. Instead, she turned toward the framed photograph of her mother, hoping the sight of something familiar would keep her mind from breaking. But the glass inside the frame had darkened like a phone screen, and when Lin Yan stepped closer, she saw not her mother's face, but a news article reflected behind the cracks. The headline was faint, but the date was clear: 3 years ago, the night of the first recorded blood moon trial. The words rearranged themselves as Lin Yan stared. 2 students missing after abandoned dormitory incident. 1 body recovered. 1 unidentified. The article shook inside the frame, then changed into another image. A soaked school uniform folded on a hospital table. A cracked phone sealed in an evidence bag, and a name written at the bottom of the report. Shen Yu. Beneath it was another line, half blurred by digital static. "Last seen with Yehan." "That is not the whole truth," Yehan said from behind the door. Lin Yan turned sharply. "Then tell me the whole truth." "I cannot," he said, "because you do not want to. Because the room hears confession as consent." The phone buzzed in her palm. Shen Yu's message appeared at once. "He still knows the rules better than the victims." Lin Yan looked at those words, and something in her chest tightened. Yehan had not simply survived the trials, and he had not simply studied them from a distance. He spoke like someone who had made mistakes inside them, someone who had learned what every rule cost only after someone else paid the price. The photograph frame flickered again. This time Lin Yan saw Shen Yu in a memory standing in a classroom under red moonlight while the younger Yehan argued with her in a low voice. She could not hear every word, but she saw the fear in Shen Yu's face and the desperation in Yehan's. On the desk between them lay a phone, showing the old group chat name, the ghost chat of room 801. There were 4 names in the member list, but the 4th was blurred as if the memory itself was afraid to show it. "Who was the 4th person?" Lin Yan asked. Yehan did not answer. Shen Yu answered through the phone instead. "The one he never mentions." The screen turned black, then displayed a new image. A boy in a black school uniform standing beside a window filled with red moonlight. His face was hidden by the reflection of rain on glass, but his smile was visible, bright and calm in a way that felt inhuman. He held a red umbrella in one hand and a phone in the other. On his phone, Lin Yan saw a message that did not belong to the old trial or the new one. "Invite accepted." Lin Yan felt the floor tremble beneath her. "Invite," she whispered. Yehan's voice hardened. "Lin Yan, listen to me carefully. The Blood Moon trials do not choose people randomly. Someone always opens the door first. Someone always sends the first invitation. That is the betrayal the trial wants you to find." "Then who sent it?" Lin Yan asked. The silence that followed was so complete that even the dripping faucet seemed to stop. Then Shen Yu spoke through the phone. "Ask him why he kept the 4th name hidden." The hallway flickered again and the old apartment walls sank deeper into the shape of the abandoned corridor. The brass numbers on the doors gleamed in the red light. 7998000801. Lin Yan stared at 801, and the air around it seemed colder than the rest of the hall. Behind that door, something scratched softly like fingernails moving across wood from the inside. "Do not open that door," Yehan said. Lin Yan almost laughed, but no sound came out. "You keep telling me what not to do." "Because I know what happens when people do the brave thing too late." The phone warmed suddenly in Lin Yan's hand. A new file appeared in the group chat titled Trial Record Room 802. It opened without her touching it. The screen showed a grainy video from 3 years ago, recorded from a ceiling camera in a corridor very much like the one forming around her now. Shen Yu ran into view first, barefoot, crying, holding a phone against her chest. Yehan followed a second later, his younger face pale and furious. He grabbed Shen Yu's wrist, but not cruelly. He held her like someone trying to stop her from walking into traffic. Shen Yu struggled anyway, shaking her head again and again. The camera had no sound at first, only static, and then the audio clicked on. "You promised," Shen Yu said in the recording. "You said the room would choose only one of us." "I was wrong," Yehan said. "No," Shen Yu whispered. "You were afraid." The video glitched. For 1 second, the boy in the black school uniform appeared behind them, though neither Shen Yu nor Yehan seemed to notice. He stood in front of room 801, with the red umbrella closed at his side. His smile was turned not toward the camera, but toward Lin Yan, as if he knew someone would watch this. Years later. Then the video cut to black. Lin Yan's hands were shaking. She looked toward the apartment door again and imagined Yehan outside, older now, or perhaps only pretending to be older, soaked by rain. He might not even feel. "What happened after that?" she asked. Yehan's answer came slowly. "Room 802 asked us to choose who would keep their name." Lin Yan frowned. "Keep their name." "The room does not always kill the body first," Yehan said. "Sometimes it erases the name and the world forgets there was ever a person to bury." The phone vibrated. Shen Yu's words appeared like a wound opening on the screen. He chose himself. "No," Yehan said, and for the first time his voice broke. "I chose wrong." There was a difference, Lin Yan realized, but she did not yet know whether it mattered. A selfish person could choose himself and call it survival. A guilty person could choose wrong and spend years trying to rename it as tragedy. The Blood Moon trials lived in that difference in the shadow between what someone meant to do and what someone actually did. It fed on the moment when fear made a person smaller than their promise. The corridor groaned around her. The door marked 801 appeared fully, now standing where the entrance to her living room should have been. Beside it, another door slowly formed its brass numbers, appearing one at a time: 8, then 0, then 2. The number 802 burned faintly red before settling into dull metal. Lin Yan knew without being told that this was where the third name waited. Lin Yan, Yehan said, "Do not go near that door." Shen Yu's voice came from the phone. "If she does not, she will only know your version." Lin Yan looked between door 801 and door 802. One had nearly killed her. The other was calling her name through the dead. Every instinct told her to run, but the hallway behind her bedroom had stretched too far and the apartment she knew was gone. There was no outside anymore, only doors, rain, and the countdown slowly eating the night. 224108, 224107, 224106. Lin Yan forced herself to breathe. "I need the truth." "No," Yehan said. "You need to survive. That is what everyone says when they want someone else to stay ignorant." The phone fell silent. Yehan did not answer. Lin Yan stepped toward the door marked 802, and the floorboards creaked beneath her feet. As she moved closer, she noticed something on the floor, wet footprints too small to belong to Ye Han, leading from the threshold of room 802 to the place where she stood. They had been there all along, waiting for her to notice. When Lin Yan reached the door, the phone screen changed again. "Place your hand on the number." She hesitated, then lifted her trembling fingers toward the brass plate. Ye Han struck the apartment door from outside with sudden force, and the sound made her flinch. "Lin Yan, do not let her show you the last memory." Why, Lin Yan asked. "Because she does not remember all of it," Shen Yu whispered through the phone. "Because he is in it." Lin Yan touched the number 802. The hallway did not disappear at once. First, the number 802 grew hot beneath her fingers, and the red light inside it spread into the cracked screen of her phone. The video was no longer only showing her the past. It was pulling her deeper into the memory itself. The hallway disappeared. The memory changed again, pulling her deeper than the video had allowed. She stood inside a classroom at midnight under red moonlight 3 years in the past. The air smelled of rain, chalk dust, and something metallic beneath the floorboards. Shen Yu sat at the back desk, younger and alive, her white uniform damp at the sleeves. Ye Han stood near the doorway, and the boy in the black school uniform leaned against the teacher's desk, turning a phone between his fingers as if it were a toy. "You said it was only a dare," Shen Yu said. The boy smiled. "Most doors open better when people think they are playing." Ye Han stepped between him and Shen Yu. "Shu Mo, stop!" Lin Yan repeated the name silently. Shu Mo. The fourth person had a name at last, and the moment she heard it, the classroom lights flickered as if the memory itself wanted to reject it. Shu Mo looked toward the corner where Lin Yan stood, though she knew he should not be able to see her. His smile widened. "A witness," he said softly. "How nostalgic." Shen Yu could not hear him. She was staring at her phone where the ghost chat of room 801 had opened by itself. The message on the screen was simple. 4 participants entered. Only 3 names may leave. Lin Yan felt cold spread through her body. This was not the 3rd trial. This was the first version of it, the night the pattern began. Ye Han looked at Shu Mo. "You invited us." Shu Mo tilted his head. "I opened a door. You all chose to walk through it." "You lied." I translated. The classroom door slammed shut. Shen Yu screamed, and the red moonlight thickened against the windows until the outside world disappeared. Lin Yan watched helplessly as the desks shifted, dragging themselves across the floor into the shape of a corridor. The classroom stretched impossibly long doors forming along both sides, each marked with a number that had not been there before. Shu Mo raised his phone and read the next rule aloud. "Before dawn, choose the first betrayer. If the answer is wrong, 1 name will be erased. If no answer is given, all participants enter room 802. Shen Yu turned to Ye Han. "What does that mean?" Ye Han did not know. Lin Yan could see it on his face, and that frightened her more than if he had looked guilty. The Ye Han from the past was not the calm figure at her door. He was a boy trapped in a game he had not understood yet. But guilt did not require understanding. Sometimes not understanding was exactly how people destroyed one another. The memory lurched forward. Shen Yu was crying beside room 802, and Ye Han held her shoulders. Shu Mo stood several steps away, untouched by fear, while the red umbrella leaned against his leg. The phone lay on the floor between them, its cracked screen showing 3 names glowing white and one name glowing red. Lin Yan tried to read the red name, but the letters kept shifting. "Say it," Shumo said. Yehan shook his head. "No. If you do not choose, she goes in with you." Shen Yu looked at Yehan. "Do not say my name." "I won't," he whispered. But the room whispered too. It whispered from the walls, from the doors, from the red moonlight pressing against the ceiling. It whispered with voices that sounded like Yehan's parents. Shen Yu's mother, teachers, classmates, strangers, dead students, all saying the same thing in different ways. Choose, choose, choose. Then the phone lifted from the floor by itself. Lin Yan saw Yehan reach for it. She saw Shen Yu grab his arm. She saw Shumo smile as if he had been waiting for that exact motion. The image fractured before Lin Yan could see what happened next. The memory tore into pieces of red light and she found herself back in the corridor outside room 802, gasping as if she'd been underwater. The phone in her hand was burning hot. New evidence unlocked the screen, said. First invitation Shumo. First choice hidden. First erasure incomplete. Incomplete, Lin Yan whispered. Yehan spoke from the apartment door, but now his voice sounded much closer. Because Shen Yu did not disappear completely. Lin Yan turned. The door to her apartment had opened a crack, though she had not touched it. Darkness filled the gap, and Yehan stood beyond it, still outside, his face pale in the rain-grey light. His hand rested against the door frame, but he did not step through. For the first time, Lin Yan noticed there was no water dripping from his coat onto the floor. "You're not wet," she said. Yehan looked down as if the detail had betrayed him. Outside rain poured harder than ever, but his clothes remained dark and dry, not shining with water, not clinging to his skin. Lin Yan remembered the reef, his hand gripping her wrist, his voice calling her name over the roar of the sea. If he could touch her, then why did he seem so unreal now? Shen Yu answered before he could. The reef was part of the trial. The dead can touch you where the trial allows it. Lin Yan's stomach turned. Dead Yehan's eyes lifted to hers. Do not let her force the answer before you understand the question. The door creaked wider by itself. Yehan stepped back as if even he feared the movement. The corridor welcomed him with a sound like a long breath being drawn through old wood. Lin Yan saw the line of the threshold glowing faintly red between them, thin as a cut. The phone pulsed in her hand. "Threshold rule active." Shen Yu's voice sharpened. "Do not let him cross." "I am not trying to," Yehan said. But the corridor was. The floorboards tilted almost imperceptibly, sloping from the doorway toward Lin Yan. The walls seemed to draw inward, narrowing the path behind Yehan, pushing him forward without touching him. Yehan braced one hand against the frame. For a second, Lin Yan saw real fear on his face. "Room 802. Wants a witness," he said. "What happens if it gets one?" Lin Yan asked. Yehan looked at her and his calm mask finally cracked. "Then my memory becomes yours. And if you believe it, the trial can punish you for it." Shen Yu appeared at the far end of the corridor. Lin Yan did not know when she arrived. One moment there was only red light, old wallpaper and closed doors. The next, a girl in a soaked white school uniform stood beneath the flickering emergency lamp. Her black hair clung to her cheeks and her skin was pale enough to seem almost blue. She looked at Yehan, not with rage, but with the terrible sadness of someone who had waited too long for an apology. "You promised me the room would choose only one of us," Shen Yu whispered. Yehan closed his eyes. "And then you let it take both." Lin Yan's throat tightened. Shen Yu was no longer only a name on the phone or a voice hidden inside the glass. She was a girl who had once been alive, who had once trusted someone, standing in this same corridor under this same red light. The grief in her face made the whole hallway feel less like a haunted place and more like a wound that had never closed. Yehan opened his eyes again. "I tried to bring you back." Shen Yu smiled faintly, and it was worse than crying. "No. You tried to bring back the version of me that could forgive you." The timer continued to fall. 21:16:44, 21:16:43, 21:16:42. Lin Yan wanted to ask what Yehan had done, but the corridor answered first. Every door along the hallway opened a few inches, and from behind them came whispers, layered over one another. Some voices sounded young, some old, some close, some far away. They were names Lin Yan realized. Hundreds of names, all speaking from rooms where no bodies remained. Because Yehan had reached the threshold, the trial had changed its shape. It was no longer only asking Lin Yan to find the first betrayer. Now it wanted her to become a witness. The phone displayed another rule. A witness may ask 3 questions. A liar must answer. A guilty person may remain silent. A dead person may do both. Lin Yan stared at the rule until the words sank into her. 3 questions. She looked at Yehan, then at Shen Yu. The trial wanted her to interrogate them. It wanted her to turn fear into judgment, confusion, into accusation, and truth into a weapon she did not know how to use. Her first question came before she could stop it. Who invited Shen Yu into the ghost? Chat Shu Mo Yehan said at once. Shu Mo Shen Yu said at the same time. The phone glowed green for 1 second. Answer aligned. Lin Yan breathed out slowly. At least that much was true. Her second question felt heavier. Who chose Shen Yu's name? Yehan's face went still. Shen Yu looked at him. The corridor seemed to lean closer. Yehan said nothing. Shen Yu whispered, "He did." The phone did not glow green. It did not glow red. It only flickered uncertain and displayed another line. Answer incomplete. Lin Yan's pulse quickened. If Shen Yu had told the whole truth, the trial would have accepted it. If Yehan had lied by silence, the trial would have punished him. But instead, the room had called the answer incomplete. Lin Yan looked at Yehan. Why incomplete? His voice was very quiet. Because I said her name, but I was not the first person who chose it. Shen Yu stepped forward. Water dripped from the ends of her hair, but the drops disappeared before they hit the floor. Do not twist it. I am not. You spoke my name. Yes. You gave the room permission. Yehan's hand tightened around the doorframe. I thought I was trading mine. The corridor shook. Every open door slammed shut at once. Lin Yan almost dropped the phone. Shen Yu stared at Yehan as if he had struck her. For a moment, all the grief in her face hardened into something colder. That is not what you said that night. It is what I meant. The room does not care what you meant. Those words hung in the air with the weight of a verdict. Lin Yan understood then why the trial was so cruel. It did not measure love, intention, regret, or fear. It measured the moment spoken aloud. It measured the choice that crossed the lips. It measured what the room could use, not what the heart had tried to say. The third question waited inside Lin Yan like a blade. She knew she should ask who the first betrayer was. That was the trial's main demand. But the question felt too large, too dangerous, and too easy to answer wrongly. Shu Mo had invited them. Ye Han had spoken Shen Yu's name. Shen Yu had perhaps hidden part of the memory. The room itself had twisted all of them into weapons. Lin Yan looked at Ye Han and asked something else. "Are you alive?" The corridor went silent. Even Shen Yu stopped moving. Ye Han's face changed in a way Lin Yan could not immediately name. It was not surprise, not exactly. It was the expression of someone who had known a door would open someday and had still hoped it would remain closed 1 minute longer. He looked down at the glowing threshold between them. "No," he said. The phone flashed red. Truth accepted. Lin Yan felt the word enter her like cold water. No! Ye Han was not alive. The hand that had reached for her on the reef, the voice that had warned her, the figure standing outside her apartment in the rain, all of it belonged to someone who no longer existed in the ordinary world. She took 1 step back. Shen Yu's eyes filled with a sadness that was almost pity. "He died the same night I did." Lin Yan looked at Ye Han. "Then what are you?" Ye Han gave a faint, broken smile. That would have been a better third question. The phone screen dimmed. 3 questions used. Trial judgment pending. Lin Yan's stomach dropped. She had spent her final question not on the first betrayer, but on Ye Han's life, or the absence of it. The countdown remained, but now a second timer appeared beneath it. 000300. 000259. 000258. Shen Yu looked at the timer and whispered, "The threshold." Ye Han pushed himself back from the doorframe, but the corridor bent behind him. The apartment door opened fully without Lin Yan touching it. The lock clicked by itself, sharp and final. Lin Yan turned toward the door, but it was already too late. The hallway had invited him in. Ye Han tried to stop. His body strained against something invisible, but the red line of the threshold flared beneath his feet. 1 step carried him forward, then another. When he crossed into the corridor, the phone screamed with static so loud that Lin Yan covered 1 ear. The words on the screen appeared in bright red letters. "Witness confirmed. The betrayer has entered." Lin Yan's breath stopped. "I did not choose this," Ye Han said. Shen Yu's voice was barely audible. "None of us did in the end." The moment Ye Han crossed the threshold, the corridor changed again. The walls stretched upward, the ceiling sank lower, and the doors multiplied until Lin Yan could no longer count them. Red moonlight poured from a window that had not existed before, washing over Ye Han's body. It passed straight through him and painted the floor behind his feet. Lin Yan stared at the empty space where his shadow should have been. There was nothing. No shadow. No reflection in the cracked phone screen. No breath in the cold air. The last piece of trust inside her cracked like glass. Not because Ye Han had lied about being dead, but because some part of her had already known and had still wanted not to see it. "You're dead," she whispered. Ye Han did not deny it. "I was," he said softly. "And if the trial finishes what it started, I will be again." Lin Yan took 1 step away from him. Was before. Ye Han could answer. The door marked 802 opened by itself. Inside was not a room, it was the reef. The same black water stretched beneath the same impossible red moon. The same small boat waited in the distance, rocking gently without making a sound. The air smelled of salt rain and old blood, though no blood could be seen. Lin Yan felt the world tilt beneath her feet as the corridor, the apartment, and the memory all folded toward the open door. But this time, someone was already standing at the bow. Not Ye Han, not Shen Yu. A boy in a black school uniform lifted his head and smiled at Lin Yan as if he had been waiting for her for years. He held a red umbrella at his side, closed and perfectly dry, though rain fell over the Black Sea. Behind him, dozens of phones floated in the water, each one glowing with a different name. Lin Yan saw Shen Yu's name. She saw Ye Han's name. Then she saw her own. The boy raised one hand and pointed to the empty seat beside him. Her phone vibrated one final time. The fourth participant has awakened. Ye Han's face changed. For the first time, Lin Yan saw real fear in his eyes. He reached for her wrist, but his hand passed through her skin like cold smoke. The reef wind rushed into the corridor, carrying the sound of hundreds of message notifications ringing from beneath the water. Lin Yan Ye Han said, "Don't look at him." But it was already too late. The boy at the bow smiled wider. His eyes were dark and bright, full of the red moon's reflection, and when he spoke, his voice was not only his own. It was Ye Han's voice. Shen Yu's voice, the ghost chat's voice. It was every message Lin Yan had ever feared opening. "Welcome back to Room 801, Shumo said. "This time you are not here to survive. You are here to remember who invited us." The phone slipped from Lin Yan's hand, but it did not fall. It floated in front of her screen, cracked red light pulsing beneath the glass. A new group name appeared. The Blood Moon Trials original room. 4 names loaded one by one. Shen Yu, Ye Han, Shu Mo, Lin Yan. Then a 5th line appeared beneath them, blank at first, waiting. Lin Yan stared at it, unable to breathe. The blank line filled itself with a name she recognized from her own childhood. A name she had not spoken in years, a name that should never have belonged to this cursed place. Before she could read it fully, Ye Han shouted. Shen Yu screamed, and the red moon blinked like an eye opening underwater. The screen went black. To be continued.